Welcome to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you are ready to find your inner magic, develop great habits, and a rock steady mindset to feel confident, comfortable, and fit in your body, you are in the right place. I am Kim Barnes Jefferson, and I'll be giving you weekly doses of health, fitness, and life tips sprinkled with humor and real talk. If you're ready to be consistent without the stress of perfection, magic makers, it's time to slip into your favorite pair of PJs, grab some coffee, kick back, and listen to today's show. Hey, magic makers. Today's episode is for the woman who is tired. And I'm not just talking, I need another cup of coffee tired. I'm talking bone deep, tired, doing all the things, and she can't seem to catch a break. If you've gotten stubborn weight, random cravings, low energy, and the quiet thought of, why does my body feel like it gave me the finger? This episode's for you. We are talking all about peptides. And for many of you, you're like, what's a peptide? GLP-1, that is a peptide. Many of you have been hearing about other peptides. We're talking about that all. And in this conversation, you are going to understand what they do when it comes to energy, fat loss, sleep recovery, and how it opens up hormones in a completely different way. I have brought Dr. Alexandra Geiger on the show, and she is a board-certified former emergency medicine doctor who is helping us break down peptides in actual human language, what the hell they are, why they're suddenly everywhere, which ones actually help, which ones are just hype, and how they fit into the real life of a woman over 40. You know how I do. We are keeping it real. I love that she talks about these peptides. Yeah, they are great, but they can't outwork the chaos, the stress, the junk sleep, and living on adrenaline. So if you are done being, this is part of aging, buckle up. Let's get into it. This week's iTunes review is brought to you by M.L. Martel. She writes, 5 stars. Kim is more than just knowledgeable in just health and fitness. She is supportive, reassuring, and on the level. She gives it to you straight, just the way most people need it. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. I really appreciate that review. And you too can review Fit Girl Magic Podcast. Just go to iTunes or wherever you subscribe to this show and just leave me a 5-star review. I love them. I take them to heart. I just want to make sure that I'm bringing you the best stuff. So thank you so much for all of you who have left me a review so far. I can't wait to highlight you. All right, magic makers, I am really, really excited today because you know how sometimes you think to yourself, like, this is really what I want to talk about, but I'm like, I don't really know anything about it. Can I find someone? Well, I did. I found someone. I have Alexandra Geiger here, and she is going to talk all about peptides. I don't know if you know this, but 80% of women over 40 report unexplained fatigue. And you're like, girl, you're preaching to the choir. I know. But unexplained fatigue, stubborn weight, and those random cravings, they're doing all the right things. I know that because we talk about it all the time. But you're not lazy. You're not broken. There is just so many whirlwinds of hormones, metabolism. Everything is just out there trying to feel like it's keeping you down. Well, today we have Dr. Alexandra here, and she is going to talk all about how to decode the signals. We're going to talk about peptides, what they really are all about, and are they safe, all that good stuff. So welcome to the show, Alexandra.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, and it's like, I feel like, so I know that GLP-1s have been around for a while, but they didn't really come into vocabulary until I would say in the last 5 years that more people, like if you say GLP-1 now, most people are like, oh, I know what that is. Where 5 years ago, someone would be like, gee, what? So do you think that was kind of like the catalyst for the rest of these kind of like peptide?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's such a great question. So the GLP-1s became popular, and we found out that GLP-1s are actually just peptides. And peptides are just a short chain of amino acids. So most of the communication in our body happens with signaling proteins that tell one part of the body to do one thing and communicate between different parts of the body. And peptides are just shorter signaling proteins that enhance some sort of function in the body.
Hey, Magic Makers, quick interruption here. I wanted to tell you something that I'm working on this winter. I am stepping into my build phase. Yep, this midlife body is about to stack on some muscle, and I want to take you with me. And here's the thing, we're not building muscle to look cute in a bikini. I mean, that's a side effect. We're building it so that we can be the strongest golden girl on the block. The ones who carry Costco level groceries without breaking a sweat. The ones who actually feel good in our bodies instead of negotiating with our backs every time we go to stand up. And because I know you're busy, here's the kicker. You can get this done in 3 days a week and spend less than an hour at the gym. Plus, it's also set up that you can do it using dumbbells at your home gym. That's it, right? We're not trying to set you up to be a fitness hostage situation here. The whole vibe is, how do we become strong by spring? We get 3 non-negotiables, 1 daily, 2 weekly, simple, doable, repeatable, and absolutely made for your real life. No hustle culture. We're not detoxing. It's just consistency and muscle that works in the real world. If you've been craving strength, sanity, and oh, wow, I got my groove back feeling, come with me. We are building, we are showing up, and we are going to be strong by spring together. All right. If this sounds like you, do me a favor. Click the link in the show notes. All right, let's get back to the show.
So the GLP-1s are a complete smash. And we then started to tune in that the bodybuilding community has been cooking up all these other peptides and has, been working on a whole bunch of other functions that we didn't know could be optimized or enhanced. And certainly the GLP-1s made us pay attention a little bit. And, we talk a lot about hormones, how we know that in our 40s, hormones start to shift. The production of hormones starts getting down-regulated. And especially our bodies as women, we are unfortunately optimized to reproduce. And it's only in very recent human history that we've started living much longer than the window. So we know, and we've talked about this so much over the last decade or so, that our hormones start declining after that fertile window. But also all those signaling proteins, all those peptides that your body naturally makes, they're also down-regulated. So your body is always trying to conserve energy.
Yeah.
And your natural peptide production, which we produce thousands and thousands of them, but it really starts getting down-regulated after 40. So you're not only losing the support of your your hormones, you're also losing some of those positive signals telling your body how to work optimally.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about the, bodybuilding community, because I was a former competitor. And the first thing that I know that pops into my head when you think bodybuilding community, you think steroids, right? So like most people are like, oh, I don't want to take steroids. But I do recall that there were like certain things that other people did, right? So it wasn't like, it was just, and they got better results. And so, from what you're saying, these peptides have been around for a while, but they were just kind of like flying under the radar from, I'm going to call it the mainstream.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So there are people who have known about peptides for many years, and to some extent, they have not come into the mainstream because peptides are not supposed to be patented. And a lot of our medical education is actually dependent on pharma. So, our education model, I'm a conventionally trained physician, but it's really about drug equals disease. So if there's no drug, most likely you won't learn about, what we learn is reassurance. This is normal. You feeling like crap. That's what we're trained to say. Done well is normal. Yeah. So, but now it's really exciting because we do have all these other tools that can actually help people to function at their optimal health level at any age and really have some of that function back that we might be losing.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because most of the women listening to this, we've all gone to our doctors and we're like, Doctor so and so, like, and you rattle off like, I'm exhausted, I'm putting on, weight. It seems like, a pound a minute, and they give you that pat answer of like, oh, honey, you're not 25 anymore, and you're just like, okay, that's not what I came here for. I didn't wait 6 months to hear that. I knew that before I walked in the door, and so we're as a woman, we're expected to just like suck it up and just be like, go with the flow. But, from your perspective, there's actually so much more going on with our metabolism, our hormones that, most doctors just kind of push you out the door.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's so exciting. I again trained in a conventional model. I did a residency in emergency medicine, and I experienced a lot of um, normal labs, but suboptimal health. Really not feeling well for years, and having that same experience as a doctor, and having very high levels of stress and lots of wear and
Mm,
tear on my body, and just feeling like I don't have the energy to live life the way I want to, and kind of inspired me to do something quite different. And I think that peptides are often the icing on the cake. When I work with patients, usually we address metabolic health first
yeah.
and really try to optimize diet, exercise.
Yeah.
What's your lifestyle like? Can we get some control on the stress? Can we get
Mm,
you sleeping? And that goes such a long way. But sometimes women need help. Women
yeah.
need help
Yeah.
to actually do those things, like there's so many uncontrollable factors in our lives. So they've already tried to get sleep under control, but they have three young children and they're an
Mm,
executive at this company, and there's so many demands on your time and stress that having helping someone feel better so they can take those healthful actions sometimes is such a game changer. And they're really transformed when we can address metabolic health, hormone health, and add some peptides to, again, enhance something that's already happening. So we can talk more about specific categories of peptides, how to use them safely, and all those sorts of things.
perfect. It's interesting that you say that because I love I kind of, internet stalked you for a little bit just to make sure that you weren't going to come on and just be like, just buy it and just shut up. I love that your company is like, this is your life. And regardless of what protocol we give you, if your life is still batshit crazy, this is just going to put like just water into an overflowing cup. Like this, you're probably not going to feel any different. And I really appreciate that because I don't think, even if you are on the prescription level GLP-1, I don't think many people realize how their lives impact their health.
Yes. 100%. It's you have to be willing to make some changes. And again, sometimes making those changes is really hard, and I think you
Yes.
have to have somebody who's going to hold your hand. And we work pretty intensely with our patients, especially at the beginning, especially
Mm-hmm.
if we have a lot of metabolic health challenges and a lot of stress and breakdown. So we meet every week. We have health counselors that really become your best friend and your ally, who meet with you every week and say, what worked? What didn't work? How can we
Mm-hmm.
try again? Because we all know that being told, eat healthy, move more, walking out of a doctor's office doesn't actually solve
Right.
anything. You need somebody who's going to hold your hand and say, I think this is going really great, but can we add a little bit of this? And
Right.
okay, it's too hard right now. What can we do to make that easier? How can
Mm-hmm.
we give you the proper nutrients, peptides, hormones to make some of those healthy choices a little bit easier?
Yeah, and you're right. Because it's like we've all gone to the doctor and we've all heard the, eat less, move more. And then you do your best not to roll your eyes in front of them, right? And you drive home, you're like, that was a waste of fucking time. So then like you said, there's someone like in your corner who's like, okay, give me one step that you could do, right? Is it a 10-minute walk? Is it a 5-minute walk? Can you go to bed 5 minutes earlier? Can you put your kids to get 5 minutes earlier? So like that you start to kind of get them thinking like, Oh, I never thought about doing it that way. Like, so that, what felt like, an Everest problem, you've turned into a molehill.
Exactly. Yes. And I think especially for women,
Yes.
we put everybody else first.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I think that prioritizing your health and just thinking about it and actually doing healthful things for yourself can be quite revolutionary.
Yeah.
Where, I think that we are trained by society to kind of put ourselves aside, take care of the
Mm-hmm.
kids, take care of the house, take care of everything at work. We work as if we've had no kids. We're supposed to parent as if we've had no work. And
Yeah,
that's a lot of wear and tear,
it is.
on the body. That's very stressful.
Absolutely. So what do you think is like one like sneaky hormone metabolism connection that no one is really talking about that's really wrecking the energy that us ladies have and for most of us listening like our waistlines.
Right. Yeah. So, I think metabolic health is this also sort of this
Big
buzzword
word.
that,
Yep.
yeah, that's come up over the last few years. And again, it's part of this bigger problem where we've all seen those maps where Americans have become quite obese over the
Yeah.
last 20 years. And it's not like it's just a few people. This has happened all over the country to a large population of people. And the way we responded to this, again, was as you said, to basically blame the victim and say, eat less, move more. And there's a lot of factors that kind of created this problem. One is that food science has really evolved over the last 20, 30, 40 years, where we've created these hyper palatable foods,
Yes.
foods where they hijack your
Oh
brain.
God, yeah.
You're not able to stop eating. It's not a willpower problem. It's not that that person can do it and you can't. It's
No.
literally hijacks your
They
brain.
have
So
whole departments that are like, that's their main job. How do we turn this into crack? Like,
exactly. Yeah, and they take a lot of tactics from the cigarette
oh
industry.
yes.
It's how do we get people to be physically unable to stop eating these products? So our brains, our bodies are getting totally hijacked,
Yeah.
and that is, then we hold on to fat tissue, and
Hmm.
fat tissue itself is actually like an organ unto itself in the body, and it releases inflammatory cytokines, or these signaling molecules that actually cause more inflammation. They actually can produce more unhealthy estrogen. So just holding on to fat tissue can really dysregulate the way you're processing estrogen, can make a lot of women estrogen dominant.
Yeah.
So women who are estrogen dominant will have heavy periods, will have a lot of cramping, will be prone to fibroids, endometriosis. And that just means, so usually estrogen and progesterone should be in balance. But again, because we're eating these inflammatory foods, we're holding on to more fat tissue, we're producing more estrogen. And then in order to produce progesterone, which is the calming hormone, we need the same products that cortisol is made out of.
Mm,
So especially women who are under high stress will not be able to produce enough
right.
progesterone. So again, that estrogen dominance, and progesterone is really the calming hormone. So it's the hormone that helps you feel calm, be resilient to
Yeah.
stress. So it's all sort of tied together. And I think addressing metabolic health is really foundational for hormone
Yeah.
health, everything else. And it's actually simpler than the diet industry has made it sound for the last 30 years. There's so many books and diets and
Yes.
this and that. Eat real food, get 100 grams of protein and about 21 grams of fiber a day, and you will see miracles in your life on so many levels.
It's interesting you say that about the fiber because it's when I'm working with clients it's usually like the two things that like we always work on first. And so many people will tell me like I was like, "Oh, how often do you go to the bathroom?" And they're like, "Oh, a couple times a week." And I was like, "Oh, good Lord." I was like, "Fiber stat." And then the first thing that comes to people's mind is like Metamucil. I was like, "Do not put that crap in your body." I'm like, "I want you to have like some broccoli, some beans, like something with like a high fiber content. I'm like, you don't want grit in a cup.
Yes, exactly. I know. It's the life of convenience where we've been trained again away from whole foods, away from
Right.
real solutions, and part of that is the speed of our lives. We're moving
Right.
so fast that but going back, you're exactly right. I mean, and it yes, so you need to be having bowel movements to excrete the bad estrogen that's still hanging around. And you need the fiber to feed your gut microbiome, which is also so important for everything that we've talked
Right.
about, for your
Right.
overall well-being, for your metabolism, for your hormone balance.
Right. Because if, women who are listening to this in our 40s, like if we had a cough, we just have an antibiotic like with a piece of gum. And so, God knows what our guts are looking like right about now.
Yes, absolutely.
So as you made this like shift from here you are, in my mind, I'm thinking like Grey's Anatomy, like
Totally.
right. So you're Meredith Grey in Grey's Anatomy, and you're like, I'm done with Seattle Grace. And so now I'm gonna move over here to Peptide 101. So what was the shift? Like what was it like kind of like, what? I'm done. Like this, first of all, clear the stress. Like I can only imagine like every minute like you're on like it's not like mom comes in with a little kid with a flu, like there's like serious things can happen back to back to back. And so now you're shifting over here to more focusing on more like whole health and peptides. Like what was that shift for you?
Yeah, great question. And again, and it was multiple things. I went to medical school with this deep desire to be a healer, to help
Mm,
people feel better and to thrive. And I found that through my medical education, my residency, that's actually somewhat beaten out of you, where the system. And I never want to bash conventional medicine. We've made incredible progress and we're able to save lives and cure cancer and do all these other things. But it grew up as a paternalistic system with a lot of men on cocaine working 80 hours a week,
right.
and your compassion and that sort of the things that really heal are not exactly part of our training. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And we have really glorified efficiency, and not because that's what doctors want. That's what the insurance companies want. That's what our system right now requires to actually get people cared for.
Yeah.
So with all that, I became fairly disillusioned with my conventional practice fairly early. And I also suffered, my health really suffered. I worked in the ER through COVID, and I had a level of burnout where, again, I felt
Yeah.
like there is no good parts of me that I'm taking. And I've always felt very passionate about helping people and being there to the biggest degree that I can. But I felt like there was no good parts of me left at
Yeah.
home or anywhere else. Everything was being left at the hospital. And it was just sort of, and also I saw people with the same thing coming in over and over.
Mm,
And we see the gunshots and the car accidents, but also the chronic diseases, the
right.
diabetes, the heart attacks, all those things. And these people were not getting better.
Right.
They were getting worse invariably every time until they died in my ER. And as I myself started to learn more and research, partially for my own health and partially out of just interest, I knew that if I could reach those people 10, 20 years ago, before I saw them in the ER, they could have completely different lives.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait.
So it was actually kind of serendipity where I met an older physician who had an internal medicine practice that happened to have a weight loss program in it too. And we were having a conversation. He said, "Hey, I want to retire. Do you want to buy my practice?"
Oh, wow.
And I felt like that was the universe opening the door and saying, "Hey, jump through. You can do this. You can do something else."
Yes.
And it's been such an incredible adventure. I just love what I do and how we're able to transform people's lives now.
No, I like that because you're right, especially in the like heart space, right? How many times that someone just needs to eat a little bit better, move a little bit more, and they're like they could see heart disease, not fully reversed, but they can see market improvement if they just took a little piece of. But it's like you said, there's no one who you see them in the ER, you put a band-aid on them, you're like, here's whatever short-term medication and good luck. And there's no one that calls 6 months later and says, hey, Harvey, what's going on? And
Right.
Harvey's like, well, just having a cheeseburger right now and I'm shaking it down with the milkshake.
Mhm.
And
Right.
I haven't moved from the couch in 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And again, I think that people need a tremendous amount of support in order to prevent those events from happening. And there is a way to live in more vital bodies. I think the way we feel at age 80 is
Mm.
completely up to us. Like right now, I'm in my 40s and I am training for my 80s. I want to look good and feel good, but at the same time, like I know that what I do today is 100% going to determine what me running up and down the stairs at 80 years old and skiing and playing with my grandkids.
It's funny that you say that because I always, I still teach group fitness in person. And every time my parents live in Florida, and every time I go to Florida, it just blows my mind the number of people who are waiting for a wheelchair.
Mm,
And I just say to myself, like, that's not gonna be me. Like, I'm like, my grandmother died at 103. She didn't use a cane or a walker until like she was in her late 90s. I'm like, I can take that.
mhm.
But I just tell people, I'm like, I always tell people, I'm like, I go, I pushed you because I don't want you to be that 70-year-old person needing to wait for the wheelchair or the 70-year-old person who's like walking like an old lady because you don't have the mobility, you don't have the strength anymore. And, I'm grateful for, these kind of forward-looking things. And I'm hopeful that that message gets through to a lot more people, like train to be 80 so that it's not about I want to be the skinniest person in the room. It's like I want to be the healthiest person in the room so that I am able to like get down on the ground with my grandkids or my great grandkids and not be the help grandma up.
Yes, and yeah, muscle is gold as you teach everybody. It's really, I think also traditionally as women, especially women in previous generations before us, we were always taught to make ourselves smaller.
Yes,
Be as
yes.
small as you can, be quiet, be small, be tiny, tiny waist, tiny lady. And I think that what I want to inspire women to be, as strong and powerful as you.
Yeah.
This is our time. This is the time when we have our voice and we have our bodies. And I really think that this whole brainwashing of restriction did so much damage to us as women that I hope that my generation and future generations will step into our strength and really see how powerful we can be.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into peptides because I'm sure, now that I've said it, and those of you guys that listen to the show, you'll start to see the ads pop up on your phone. So I apologize. But, I know that I've seen so many. So let's just go one on one. So we know that now we found these peptides are what kind of really helps us kind of really unlock our hormones. But can you break down like why they've been such a game changer for energy, fat loss, and all the things that, peptides can bring to the party?
Yes, absolutely. So again, peptides are just these small chemical messengers that again we start to lose as we get older. And I think of them mostly in five categories. So the ones that are most popular that people are talking about are the exercise, body composition, performance enhancing peptides. So there are peptides that can increase our natural production of growth hormone.
Mm,
So every peptide is like the first domino in a chain. So I think all of us over 40 remember dominoes. So
yeah.
they actually stick around for a very short period of time in our bodies. They don't have to be metabolized through the kidney or the liver like drugs. They actually break down to amino acids, which are digested like food. And
Mm,
they knock over that first domino in a pathway that will do something that is healthful or helpful to our bodies. So it really depends on what your goals are, but the peptides that help with body composition are the growth hormone promoting peptides. So one of those is Samoralin. That some of them are FDA approved. So Samoralin is FDA approved. It was actually FDA approved for children with short stature.
Oh,
Yeah. And but then they stopped making the drug because it was, I guess, not financially feasible. But
yeah.
it is a small injection that goes right under your skin. And that one we usually give at night after about an hour after your last meal. And it increases the amount of growth hormone your body naturally produces. So growth hormone is really important for, of course, muscle growth, muscle maintenance, but also sleep.
Yeah.
So women who are having trouble with sleep and perimenopause, which is so common, and having trouble putting on muscle or having trouble maintaining enough energy to do the workouts that they need to, these have really been a game changer. And there's a few others in this category. I mentioned Samoralin. There's another one called Tesamorelin, which is also FDA approved for HIV patients who have visceral adiposity. So basically, they have too much fat around their organs, which can happen
Mm,
due to certain medications. But that has been spectacular in women who are already mostly healthy, but are just holding on to a lot of weight around the belly. That's kind
yeah.
of that that fat around the organs, taking that for a short period of time really just melts that fat and helps you put on muscle. So these don't necessarily change the number on the scale, but
Right.
we feel like I'm stronger, I'm
Right.
lean, but more of my fat has transformed to muscle.
Gotcha. Now, are these, uh, I'm on it for life, or are these a little bit more of a short-term
They're
solution?
always a short term. So
Nice.
all peptides, not talking about the GLP-1s, but all these peptides that we're discussing, they're usually cycled.
Mm,
So we enhance a pathway in the body for a period of time. And again, sometimes when people are doing something very athletic and are ready to make a push to really build muscle, we'll do this for 3 months.
gotcha.
And then you cycle off, but you have that healthy muscle and you can maintain it now.
Right.
And your body can continue to produce some of that growth hormone. And another one that pairs really well with one of those, like Samoralin or Tesamorelin, is something called BPC 157. And that one has been widely used in the athletic community for a long time, and it's a healing peptide. So it was initially isolated from the stomach. We make a ton of stomach acid,
Right.
and if it was left undisturbed, it would just eat up our stomach and destroy it. So scientists noticed that there's this very high amount of this substance that they called body protective compound that seems to protect the stomach wall. And then they isolated it and started giving it to people with ulcers, and it healed
Mm.
ulcers. But then they also found that it seems to, that molecule in our body tracks to injured tissue
Ah.
and helps them heal at remarkable speeds. So they cut tendons on animals, Achilles tendon, and then gave them BPC, and it healed in something like 10 days, something that's totally miraculous.
So right to like if I cut my Achilles, you would inject BPC right at the Achilles
So that's a good question. You can, but you can also inject it right under the skin, in the belly,
anywhere.
like you would for any other sort of subcutaneous shot.
Oh,
And it finds injured tissue.
wow. So
So,
any injured tissue. So like I could have like a bum shoulder in addition
yeah,
to this Achilles, and it would figure out like, oh, this needs help too.
right. And it's super helpful for recovery from exercise.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's gentle. None of these things
Right.
are like a sledgehammer. This isn't kind of like the drugs that we may be used to. I think they
Right.
are somewhere between supplements and medications. But in my practice, we've seen remarkable changes with
Yeah.
EPC where women were like, I could barely get up to do my workout twice a week, and now it's the highlight. It's the highlight of my week.
Right, right.
Can't wait to work out. I actually feel so good afterwards. And so those two I really like because I think it can give us the ability to actually do some of those things that are so healthy for our bodies.
And this is another one that you would cycle through as well.
That we would cycle off. BPC is one that's not FDA approved, but it has been used so widely, and it seems to be very, very safe in the sense that there was a study that they always try to figure out, is there a lethal dose of something?
Yeah.
And so they did this study with animals where they were trying to figure out what is the lethal dose. And basically, they ran out of drugs before anything bad happened to the
Right.
animals. There was just, it seemed like they just couldn't find it. So I think there are certain people who should not take this,
Right.
particularly people with cancer or any sort of tumors, because the growth hormone can make things
Cancer
grow.
grow. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's certainly not for someone who's has cancer, and the BPC improves blood supply to injured tissue, and sometimes a tumor can look like that. So again, I make sure all my men have PSAs, all my ladies have mammograms every year,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
pass
yeah.
all those things to make sure that we're not dealing with any of that. But I really believe that keeping people active is so worth it.
It is. The old adage, move it or lose it. It really does because I've seen just in, some of the older people in my life not moving. Like their movement is like they sit, they go get up, get something to eat, they go to the bathroom, they go to bed, like, and maybe go to the grocery store, but that's really not their like life. And movement is just like, oh shit, I gotta get up now. And
Yeah.
it's like a contemplated thing versus as a younger person, like, I gotta get up now. And you just like get out of the chair. So I'm grateful that these are coming along. And I feel that I have a two-parter here. I feel that these are like, wow, but I'm also like, are we going to find out downstream, 5, 10, 20 years from now, is this kind of unearthing something else?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it very much still is investigational, where some of them are FDA approved and they've gone through trials, these
Mm,
attempted trials to make sure that they are safe long term. The Samorelin and Tesamorelin. Some of them have not. So it's true that we do not know the long term effects. I think the overwhelming evidence so far is that they are safe. And again, rather than being then sticking around and doing something in your body of causing some kind of toxicity in the liver or the kidneys, they will break down to amino acids which are digested like.
right.
And also they stick around in the body for a very short time. So again, it's like they're just tipping that first domino of something that's already happening in your body, and then they're gone. And I think everything that we're seeing so far is very encouraging. It could really change the way that we see aging and
Right.
cellular medicine.
Now, from everything I've read, and just literally gone down a rabbit hole that I've had to pull myself out of some days. Everything seems, fabulous, right? It seems like the fountain of youth that like we've been looking for since, the 1600s. So, and for me, I'm like, that seems great. But my pullback for, when my clients ask me about it is that I can see some rando schmo on Instagram. I'm going to tell you about all the things I have and just click my link. And I'm like, here's the thing. I'm like, this is Rando Joe on Instagram or TikTok, whatever. I want you to go to someone like you, right? That it's like, you are going to look at my whole life, not just click a link and I'm going to send it to you as long as your credit card clears.
Right. I think that's so important. So, and I wanted to talk about sourcing of peptides, and I'm 100% with you. There are dangerous and unsafe peptides on the internet, and I would not recommend anyone injecting anything into your body without talking to a doctor or knowing where this comes from. So, there are some safe sources of peptides, and again, having somebody who's really knowledgeable, who's vetted the source, is so important, and who understands your medical history,
Yes.
physiology, and then can give you, when I talk with patients about peptides, I always want to give you the risks, the benefits, and do sort of a risk benefit analysis. Is this something that would be really useful short term and would give us enough benefits that it's worth any sort of risks that we might be taking? But again, the way peptides are made, it's possible to, for the people who are making sloppy peptides, they're often something called lipopolysaccharides get made with them, and those are highly inflammatory and will do a lot of damage in your body. So any peptide that someone is taking should be tested for what's called endotoxicity and for sterility. Of course, you don't
Mm,
want to inject anything that you don't know is sterile. So I think there's a lot of sources that are unfortunately unsafe, that we don't know what's in them. But there are also now, luckily, there are reputable sources that have really high safety standards and are doing all this testing. And they're working with physicians to try to get safe peptides to people. But I think that, nothing like this should be undertaken lightly. This isn't just a supplement off the shelf. We have to have a risk benefit analysis
yeah.
and see in your particular case, with your family history, with your medical history, with what you're struggling with within your physiology, is this something that would make a positive impact on your health?
Right. I love that. And for you, I know you have a practice. Is this practice nationwide, or is it you're in the DC area, I believe?
Yeah, we do work with people out of state, more in a health coaching capacity, and we can work with peptides. So we usually would be kind of an advisor to your regular doctor,
Gotcha.
but we can work with people nationwide, and we can work with peptides, analyze labs, and help you move towards optimal health, And I think for women, we've been trained to accept suboptimal health for a long time.
Yes.
Like, this is just the way it is. And, life is stressful, responsibilities are heavy, and we want to make sure everybody else feels good. And we can just sort of slug along. And I think that, my favorite thing about my work is just seeing women come to life and
Yeah.
really have this revolution of health, of not just how do we help you not get sick? How do we create a state of health? That can be
Yes.
so juicy, so powerful.
And I find that interesting because you're right. That like in the traditional medicine, it's just kind of like how do I get you in and out, and versus how do I make you just feel like healthy? Like, so many people are
Right.
just used to like, well, this is just my life, and they become resigned to it. And I'm like, no, I'm like, you can feel like, I'm not saying you need to bounce off the walls, but like, you don't have to feel like every day is a slog.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's been my obsession and my commitment is how do we create health, and medicine has been so focused on disease, and we want to prevent and cure disease, but aside from that, how do we create this state of health that people can enjoy? And we have incredible tools to do that now.
So let's play like symptom decoder ring right now.
Okay.
And so if, I'm a woman listening to this and you're like, I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm like, all right, girl, you're speaking my language. I'm like, I've been having cravings, fatigue, weight loss resistance. What are like three clues that I should listen to before I'm like, knocking on the door for labs?
Yeah. So I think it does depend on where you are in your reproductive age,
Mm-hmm.
and we're mostly talking to women in their 40s and beyond, and as we know, perimenopause can start at 35, and we can start having all those symptoms, and there's hundreds of symptoms of perimenopause. So I think if you are having more difficulty losing weight, if you're having more cravings, sleep is getting disturbed, the foundation is always trying to first optimize your diet.
Mm,
You're getting some kind of movement in your body and making sure you're getting enough of that protein, that fiber, checking on what you can do to optimize your sleep and manage your stress levels. But I think if you're doing all that and things are just not feeling right, then you should absolutely have your labs checked and go over that with someone who understands how to interpret that
right.
because um, even if we don't work with something like bioidentical hormones, just knowing what your hormone disruptions are can help you move in the right direction, can help you pick up the right toolkit and move towards feeling better. So I think that, if you're trying to eat healthy and there's just so many obstacles and you're still not feeling right, you're tired, you can't sleep, the things that used to feel like a breeze now stress you out to no end. I think that's the time. Get your labs checked and go over them with somebody who can understand and help you decode where you are. Are you estrogen dominant? Is this
Yeah.
adrenal issues? Is your thyroid subtly not working as well as it should be, even though your numbers on your physical are normal? Is your testosterone in the gutter? Is your progesterone in the gutter? You know, it's not just aging. There's
Yeah.
a lot of things that could
There's a
be
lot of
going.
moving parts.
Yeah.
So and I love how you just keep coming back to, I'm going to look at your lifestyle. I'm going to look at your lifestyle. So I want everyone to realize, like, while everything she talked about seems like fabuloso, if your lifestyle is a hot mess, peptides won't cure the hot mess.
Yes, they will do nothing again. And we talked about those two performance peptides that kind of help you maintain your exercise tolerance. If you're not exercising, it will do nothing.
Right.
So
So I'm not going to take this PPC 157 and be ripped just by sitting on my couch.
no, you will
Okay.
not. You will
Okay.
not. But you may. My hope is that you get the energy to actually do the workouts and try and start to get something out of the workouts this is not most women. Most women are actually working really
Yeah.
hard.
Oh, I feel like by the time someone gets to you and they're
Yeah.
knocking on your door, they've been like, girl, I have been through, and they probably have like a folder filled of like all the doctors that I've gone to. So like by the time they get to you, they're like, just tell me what to do and I'll freaking do it.
Yeah.
And, in my head, I'm always like, how do I get to that person who went to their main primary care doctor and their main primary care doctor just ran a THS level
Mhm.
and refused to do their hormones because they're 33 years old and was like, girl, you good. Call me when you're 40. And you're just
Right.
like, okay, he said I'm good. And you go home. Like that's the woman that I, feel like need to knock on your door and be
Yeah,
like, girl, you ain't fine. Like,
exactly. Yeah, let's do a whole makeover and it's gonna
right.
be
We need
wonderful.
more than that one number for your thyroid.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah.
yes, I am going to test your hormones just to see
Right.
where the hell you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, one of the things I hear about a lot are like they call them stacks, right? And so, like coming from the bodybuild world, like, you think when you hear stacks, you think like of your hormone of your steroid stack. So, so when you hear these stacks, like what does like peptide stacking really mean? And is it as effective as, peptide Polly says on the TikTok?
Yeah. So it can be really powerful to pair peptides together. And there are several of them that work synergistically. So that means that one enhances the efficacy of the other and they kind of help each other out. They're partners in crime. So I do think that often it is helpful to do more than one at once just to get during that time period as much as you can out of it. So the two that we talked about, the BPC plus something like Samorelin, which is a growth hormone promoting peptide, they work really well together because BPC also upregulates your growth hormone receptor.
Mm,
So that means that with more of that growth hormone floating around, it can actually bind the receptors. And again, this isn't like injecting growth hormone. This is just
right.
helping your body make an
Natural.
amount naturally that it's able to. And we can test this, and I usually do to see how much growth hormone women are producing naturally by looking at something called IGF-1. It's not exact precision, but it is a ballpark to tell us, is this something that you might benefit from?
Right.
So they can sort of help each other out. There are a few brain peptides that are really, really cool that one is called Penelion, and it is something that you take for a short time, about 21 days, once or twice a year. And it is a sleep regulator and a circadian rhythm regulator.
Ah,
So we've seen amazing results of just rebalancing what your pineal gland in your brain
yeah,
is
yeah.
putting out. And after 3 weeks of this, people are good. They feel like all of a sudden I'm sleeping and I'm getting deep sleep, and all those sleep disturbances are going away. And there's another one called epitalin, which protects your telomeres
Yeah.
and also has some circadian rhythm benefits. And those two seem to work synergistically, where they're taken very short term, a few weeks, once or twice a year. And together they seem to have this very powerful effect on your epigenetics of how your genes are getting expressed. And can be very powerful for brain health and our mitochondrial health.
I love that. Now, most people are listening and the next step is like if, most people know that their GLP-1 isn't traditionally covered by insurance or you got to go through 500 hoops to get it done. What are one, does insurance cover any of this? And two, what would be the typical out-of-pocket cost?
Yeah, great question. No, insurance won't touch any of this. So again, in the insurance model, um,
You're
it's
not
very
curing anything.
exactly. It's very hard to do health optimization through insurance. So most of this is out of pocket, and most of the time, a month supply is somewhere around 120, $130 of one peptide. So it is costly to some extent, but it's less costly than breaking a hip and not being able to walk, and all the other things that could happen down the line.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
we really try to make it as accessible and not cost prohibitive as possible. I think that if used safely in the right hands, peptides could change the way people age, and we could prevent a lot of the disease, chronic illnesses of old age, and especially if you start working with your physiology, and not even necessarily peptides, just start working with your body to
yeah,
optimize
yeah.
when you're 40. You could be a totally different person at 80. So yeah.
Yeah, but I like the way you frame it because I'm looking at the short term. So I'm looking at, oh, so they're saying that I'm going to be on this for 3 months, let's say. So it's like, oh crap, like, wow, that's $600. Like, oh, for $600, like, and then you start rationalizing all the things you could do. And then I'm going to say, okay, let's fast forward. I had a heart attack. Like, it's going to be at least $600 or more a night for you to be in the hospital, plus all the things that they do to you, the $40 aspirin that they gave you to go home with, like all the things
Right.
that,
Exactly.
and then you're gonna look back and you're gonna be like, oh, that $600 was like a dollar compared to what I just paid. Even though insurance
Right.
covered a good chunk of it, you're still coming out of pocket for a fair amount.
Yes, and it's usually I work with people of all ages, but it's usually the people in their late 60s, 70s who are now like, health is my total priority.
Right.
Care how much it costs. This is now, uh, and a lot of people also feel like I've achieved all this in my life. My brain has done all this, but now I need to take care of the vessel that's housing
Right. Or
brain.
just like you finally get to oh, they always say like when you retire, you can do everything you want. But if I
Yeah,
treated my body like shit, I was a stress ball. Like my body's like, we're sitting down. Like
right.
you've used this up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So your golden years ain't gonna be that golden because you beat the crap out of me for the last 50 years.
right. Exactly. Yeah.
So now what's one like hormone or metabolic trend, peptide trend that you see in the horizon that you're really excited about?
I think that the next generation of doctors, the younger doctors that I'm meeting, the people who are going through medical school now, are more and more rejecting the system that
Yeah.
we have come to accept and are more in tune to the components of health. Again, real food,
Yeah.
getting real food into people, actually focusing on exercise, sunlight. I think that there's a little bit of a new mentality in the future generations, and there is a softness and a desire to heal desperately needs. So
Yeah.
I think that I hope that more and more people can, I think that there's this rise of the feminine, and everybody has both feminine and masculine energy, and medicine has been very, very masculine for most of our history and paternalistic and, take the hammer to fix the nail, or, very kind of fix, 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 fix. And I think that there something is growing in our consciousness. There's more and more people, both men and women, who are starting to think about our human bodies a little bit more holistically, and seeing us as whole beings, not this kind of collection of parts that work independently of each other. And more people are just kind of rejecting the parts that are broken. And I hope that there will be a change where we can again work on creating health when it's still possible.
Agreed, because I when I was going through my early perimenopause phase, like there was nobody talking about it. There was like no one even like tapped us like ladies on the shoulder and be like, "This is all the crazy crap that you can expect to happen." No one did that. Now I see everywhere they're like, "Oh yeah, this." And I'm like, "Where were you?" And I was like, "Am I going freaking crazy? Like, am I dying tomorrow? Like, what's happening?" And so it's, I'm grateful that we're not like just taking pat answers anymore, that like we are asking questions. And, as much as I have a love hate with it's social media that like I can reach out to you and be like, oh my God, that's happened to you too, versus like just my like, inner circle.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So what's one peptide that you see that could, or you think might be the breakout star in like the next 5 years?
Good question. So there are some brain peptides that
Mm.
are very, very cool. And these are not FDA approved, but I've seen some amazing results with them. There's one called Selenk that was developed in Russia, and it can really decrease anxiety while improving focus.
Ah,
So it again, it's not like a benzo or your Xanax or something like that, but over it was developed for Russian cosmonauts and military
oh,
to
to kind of keep them
keep their
like,
brains, yes,
yeah.
to keep their brains going when they are functioning in austere environments. And it increases something called brain-derived neurotropic factor, which is the
Mm,
that your neurons live in. So there's also evidence now that it can slow down memory loss and brain fog
yeah.
and all those things. So I think there's a few like that are coming down the pike that could really help change how we approach brain health. And we're also looking at a lot of psychiatric issues, or let's just say existential anxiety as inflammation. That is inflammation
Yeah.
in the brain. So some of these peptides are actually addressing that inflammation in the brain, reducing anxiety, improving mood a little more naturally by giving our brain better food, and also decreasing the inflammation. So I think those, I hope to see more studies on those, and I think they could be a game changer for us.
I mean, do you, especially brain, because so many, first of all, the alarming number of women who are getting dementia, Alzheimer's, all the varying memory disorders, and just the crisis that Alzheimer is putting on every country in the world. Do you see potentially the FDA, maybe perking up a little bit on these brain peptides, or is the FDA just so entrenched in the, traditional medical way of how drugs come
Right.
through.
So I think the problem lies in the fact that a lot of peptides cannot be patented because
And then I can't make money. So
they're
ergo, why would I spend money if I can't make money?
exactly. So the level of rigor that needs to happen for those clinical trials to actually be approved is not happening. We are seeing some of that happen in other countries, and a lot of the research that I study about these peptides are coming out of other countries, Europe and Asia. So I hope that we continue to see more research and that there's a way to, democratize health, even if there's not
Money to
a
be
big
made. Yeah.
financial incentive for a few
Yeah.
companies.
I worked for a biotech company, like and they're like, there's no money in cures. So like,
Yeah, it's crazy.
and and if you think about, right now I'm going to say it and it's going to show up on my TV, but like if you think about the amount of money that they put into like Wegovy, Ozempic, like I think every third commercial is one of those commercials.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's like, if I can't make my money back and, I don't know how many billions of dollars he spent on that drug. So they're kind of like, if I can't make billions back, then it's not worth my investment.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, we just have a system that's um, very financially motivated.
Yeah.
So these things are out there, and most of the reason why more research or approval has not been done is just because of not because it's unsafe, not because it can't benefit many, many people. It's just the financial model is not there.
Right. And then, as some people can be like, oh, you can blame them, but I'm also like, you and I are business people. Like, and if
Yeah.
was like, I want to do whatever it is I want to do, and I'm like, but I can't make money at it, like, it just now becomes a passion project. And,
Right.
which is fine. And I can decide to do it because it's a passion project, but I can also be like, hey, I can't make money. Sorry.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. I think that we may need a different lens from the FDA that may not be so tied
Yes.
to pharma and financial incentives. And I hope that at some point may change.
Yeah, I feel you. So, I've learned so much here, and the interest in peptides is now like gone even higher because I've talked to someone who like clearly explained it, versus hearing some guy yell like, "Go to my link." Um, and that there are people out here that are educated, selling this stuff. And I'm grateful that we were able to find you. So, like you said, people can work with you directly. So how do I send them to you?
Yes. So I'll give you the link to our landing page where you can schedule a
Okay.
consultation with me, or you can go to our website, which is thegeyerpractice.com. And Geyer is spelled Gajer. And there's a button there that says book free introductory call. And you can speak to my health educator, Patrick, who's the most amazing and knowledgeable guy in the entire world. And he'll be fully transparent with you of what you can expect, what the costs are, what benefits you might get. And if it feels right to you, you can go from there and we can have an appointment and figure out how to upgrade your life.
And I ask everyone at the end of every podcast, what's one thing that makes you feel magical?
Oh, that's such a good question. So I think watching these transformations that we've talked about absolutely makes me feel magical, especially after practicing in a setting where I saw a lot of death and disease.
Mm,
Watching people that I work with be lit up about life again and feel so confident, so happy. I got a text from somebody today who was like, gosh, I'm on the beach with my family and like everybody's just complimenting me and I feel so good. And that those are magic moments for me.
yeah.
And I really love that I can bring some of that into the world.
No, I love that. And on the socials, where can people, stay in touch with you on the socials?
Yeah, so we're also at the Geyer Practice. It's Gajer. There's a J where there should be a Y, but it is at the Geyer Practice on Instagram.
Great. And guys, don't feel like you have to memorize the spelling of our last name. I will put all of these links in the show notes for you to just make it easily accessible for you. But thank you so much, Alexandra. This was just such a great conversation. And I really learned a lot. And you were like really simple in explaining it versus, it's really easy to geek out when you talk about this. But thank you so much for making it really simple and easy. And Magic Makers, if you learned something today, do us a favor, screenshot this and tag your aha moment and post it on the social. We would love to know that you walked away with something. That's the goal of the show. All right. I will talk to you guys next week. And again, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you've made it this far, yay. I'm thinking you enjoyed the show. Let's continue the conversation on Instagram. You can find me at Kim Jefferson Coach. In order for me to keep sharing this message, do me a favor and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss an episode. New episodes are available every Wednesday. The Fit Girl Magic podcast is intended to provide you with tips, tools, and strategies that will help you make better decisions about your health. I really appreciate your feedback and your support. Thank you so much.